Okay, and we are rolling. Dr. Loughran, you're on.
Well, good evening, everybody. My name is Dr. James Loughran. I am one of the program chairs in the MBA program, and I oversee several concentrations in the MBA. And I'm responsible for probably several of the courses. Either if you're not taking them, you will be taking them, mostly at the 600 level. And we have a few courses that have project-based learning in the 500 level at the MBA level, but most of the 600 level courses have project-based learning formats. So PBL stands for project-based learning. And this was put into the program to really give you a flavor of what it's like to work with organizations, to work on a problem and apply what you've learned. So, not just simply memorizing or reading concepts from a textbook and doing discussion boards and maybe writing a couple papers. That's not what project based learning is. And the reason we've introduced project based learning is we've heard from our employers, the folks that we work with in the real world, and they stress the importance of wanting to hire MBA graduates that can problem solve, that can not only understand the concepts of business at a graduate level, but apply them and help them in their organization to take advantage of opportunities or fix problems. And that's what we're doing. And so you will have one problem or opportunity that you will be focused on throughout the course. And I'll go into that more as we go through tonight. But just to kind of get you thinking, this is a different type of learning, and there is an adjustment to it. And so it's not just a passive learning where you just kind of take and absorb everything in. You have to be active, you have to be involved in the classroom. So the professor in project based learning courses is much more of a facilitator in a sense that they're the leader of the consultants and you would be considered a consultant. And so we want our MBA students to think as if they were a consultant coming in and helping an organization with an issue that they're focused on. So I want you to think about that as we go into tonight. And so the agenda for tonight is I'm further explain what project-based learning is, explain the differences and how the course is organized compared to maybe other courses that you've had, and describe what these projects are, and discuss both the benefits and the challenges working in virtual teams. And then I will open it up to any questions that you have. And I've been involved with the MBA at Post University since 2013, and I've seen this evolve into this type of learning. And I will tell you, working with the various stakeholders that are involved in this, that they do feel strongly that students learn more, but that is, it comes with some challenges and it comes with some different thinking. And so when I say stakeholders at the project based learning courses, obviously I'm referring to the students. I'm also referring to the associate faculty or the instructor, and I'm also referring to businesses. Many of our courses have real life businesses that you're working with. And we find these businesses in various ways, and I'll explain that in a moment. But you'll have a chance to work with a real leader in an organization, and this person could be the CEO. They could be the HR manager, depending on the size of the company, or some other senior leader in the organization. And so you'll have a chance to understand what they want to accomplish and help them by applying what you've learned in this course, but likely what you've learned in other courses in your MBA about business. And as you know, as you go through the MBA program, you can never look at a problem in a vacuum, like only the problem in one course. You're going to be using concepts that you've learned in other courses, but the focus will be on the course that you are currently enrolled in. So if it's a marketing course, we'll be focused on the marketing issue. If it's a leadership course, we'll be working on something to do with the employees and leading them. If it's an innovation course, we'll be focused on something new, something to enhance the company. So as you're thinking about this, I want you to think about, we are meeting the challenging needs of organizations. We're living in a world today where organizations want you to have the skills to help them improve. And when we talk to these leaders, they tell us that the number one skill they want are critical thinkers. They want people that are innovative, that will help them grow, help them use new concepts and new technologies, help them be more competitive, help them with newer markets that they're just going into, whether that's international, whether that's working with maybe millennials, Generation Z, and marketing to different groups that maybe they haven't thought about, or ethnicities, or focus more on women, or so on. And so they're looking for leaders that can help them with that. Secondly, they want folks that get along with others. And that might seem obvious, but it is a challenge in organizations today. When I say get along with others, I mean being able to work well with people that have different views than your own, different life experiences, come from different backgrounds, different ages, different educational levels. Whatever the case is, you have to work with different people. And that comes with a lot of challenges, but also with a great amount of success, in the sense that when you know you have accomplished something and you get diverse ideas, you can accomplish something great. When you're working alone, you only have your own background experience. But when working with people that may work in different companies and have different educational backgrounds, that can bring some very diverse thoughts. But being able to respect those differences, being able to respect that you will not agree on everything, dealing with conflicts effectively, dealing with other distractions that would happen in an organization as well, is incredibly important. And working in this virtual world, most likely, when you work in an organization, either you're going to be fully working virtually with teams, or at least some of the time. Especially if you're working with international teams, oftentimes it will be virtual. So we're hearing from our business partners that they really want folks that can be effective working virtually. And so that's what we're focused on: teams, helping you with driving innovation and being critical thinkers and being able to apply what you've learned. So, how are these courses different? What makes them different? And so, as you think about this, um, the course is primarily focused on teaching. So, regular courses would be just reading chapters, taking tests, and so on. Where the focus in this course is about connecting all this information together on one problem or opportunity, rather than just disjointed concepts that you have to learn, but you don't really know how to connect them and apply them. And so these courses in PBL are really talking about, I got to be critical thinking. I have to be a problem solver. I have to collaborate with others. And I have to use these innovative communication methods, because we're going to be working virtually. And we're working with students probably across the country and maybe even the world. We have students from other countries in our program. And just like you may have in an organization, and being able to work through that. And so what's also different is we don't have units. In your other courses, you're like, oh, we start with unit 1 the first week, and then we go to unit 2, and then we go to unit 3, and so on. In a project-based learning class, it doesn't work so much in a sequence like that because that's not way problems work. That we don't get a little graph likely to say, oh, do this first, then do this, and then do this. That's not the way it works in organizations. What we're going to give you instead is we're going to give you a lot of different resources that you may or may not use, and you'll have different things that you have to accomplish on certain weeks. But we're not going to tell you, do this, then do this, and then do this, and then turn it in. We're going to say, here's some resources available. This is the problem. We want you to work together and meet these deadlines throughout the course. And at the end, you're going to bring in your final deliverable, which is this final paper or presentation or both. And that will be what you present to the organization or their instructor or both. Not every PBL course has a real life case, but many do. But the PBL courses generally are organized by the way I just said. So you are not going to have units. When you go into class, you're going to see resources, and then you're going to see something in terms of your what you have to accomplish. What might say something like timetable or something like that, and you'll be able to click that and see everything due at each week. And so as you look at it, your job is to work as a team. And so you're going to be put into teams in the first week of the class, and many of our PBLs, it's just an introduction. You're saying how you like to work, what your strengths are, what you want to be known for in a team. And the instructor is looking for folks with similar um, work habits. And so those people that are pretty intense, that are what we might call type A personalities, would likely be in a team. Those people are in the middle, would be like, yeah, we're going to get things done, but I don't flip out and expect everything done immediately. I'm a person that kind of wants to have a good plan, but I don't, I'm not extremely intense about it. And then our other group, if we have three teams, they might be a lot more laid back about it, and not as perhaps prescriptive in how they plan. And so what we find is people work differently, but they tend to do better when they have folks with their own types of standards. And when I say standards, I mean the way they work and the pace that they work on. And so we try to do that. Are we perfect? Of course not. But we ask that question to be able to put people into those teams. And we find teams are more effective. Now, does that mean there isn't conflicts? Of course not. Does that mean that there isn't some people that are more intense than others? Absolutely not. But we do our best to at least try to move in that direction. But there are a lot of different factors that come in that involve around personality. A lot of those factors come in with giving respect to each other, being understanding to differences, and respecting that people don't always think the way we think. And so, as you think about this, what you're going to be doing is updating on your progress throughout the course until you get to the final deliverable. And it's weighted heavily, so that final deliverable will be where most of the points come from. So, as I mentioned, there's no numbered units in a course, there's no specifically prescribed activities. There are resources that are available to you. There is a timeline that you have to get things done, and there are deliverables along the way. And then there's a work area, and that work area is in Blackboard, but many, and I would say most teams work in an area that they agree on. So maybe they don't work necessarily in the Blackboard shell, but maybe they use other things like Teams, if they have access to Teams at work, or WebEx, or whatever they use at work, or whatever they might have a personal account for. And many of them use different apps to communicate back and forth. They use Google Docs to communicate to each other. We don't have traditional discussion boards in most PBL classes. So, if you're used to just a generic question being asked every week, the closest we have to that is that introduction week. We might have a few courses where we ask the teams to give a quick update, but for the most part, we do not have traditional discussion boards. And so many of our PBLs give you an opportunity to, you'll be focused on a team, no doubt, all PBLs, that the project will be a team project. However, a lot of our project-based learning classes have times for reflection. There are some individual points in there. And depending on the course, it might be 10%, so 90% will be team 10. We have some that are 70-30, but the individual portion would likely be your reflection of how it's going in the team, what you're learning from that. We have journals where you send the instructor on how it's going as a team, how you are developing and growing, and how you're helping the team be successful. And many of our PBLs have presentations where you'll be working as a team and you present, but there's no individual discussions or individual presentations, but there would be some individual journals and self-reflection. There are a few courses where there's presentations that are on your individual reflection of the experience, because we do want you to reflect on how you could have grown or what you did well and how you can build on it in the future. I'm going to stop before I go into the student's role and answer any questions that you have on anything I've covered so far. Well, I'll ask it also at the end. So if you're thinking about something or something comes to you, feel free, and I'll give you an opportunity. I want to talk about what is the student's role? How can you be successful in this? And some students think, I don't like this because my grade is now in the hands of other people. This should be my grade. And I've had students send me a note. This is my MBA and this should be my grade. Why that doesn't make sense is that in an organization today, it's not likely that you're going to have a job where you're totally responsible for one thing, that you don't have to collaborate with other folks. You don't have to work with other departments. You have the sole responsibility for the output, not likely in an MBA role. If you're really in an MBA type of leadership position, not likely. So your role is to engage. You can't be a wallflower. You can't be like, well, I'm just going to sit back and see what happens. You have to be involved. Our courses, most of the PBL courses will have peer reviews that will be weighted, that will have a heavy effect on your grades. So if you don't get good peer reviews, and they're done by an average, it could affect your grade. So you want to engage, you want to participate, you want to be respectful, you want to make sure if you make a commitment that you abide by that commitment. You have to help find resources. We put resources in the course, but we want you to go outside and use the library, do research, find out about the industry. Sometimes I have students send me a note and say, I don't like this because we're dealing with an industry I know nothing about. Perhaps the company is a healthcare provider and you have no healthcare experience. Sometimes our best ideas come from folks that were a patient or they had a family member that had a big effect on them, in terms of their involvement in the healthcare field. And they have some wonderful ideas. Or we have, sometimes we have retail companies. Currently, one of the companies we're working with is a logistics company. And so you may not have any background in shipping or in trucking, but your concepts about customer service, about employees, about innovation, about the things that you've learned in business truly help the organization. And so we want you to look for those resources. We want you to be able to make decisions as a team and work together and decide how you're going to make those decisions, and how are you going to deal through these challenges where people have different thoughts on it. How do you work through those conflicts, and then having this opportunity to reflect on this entire experience, whether this is in a journal, whether it's part of a paper that you do, or a presentation on your experience. But it's really important to reflect so you continue to grow on this. And as soon as I mentioned virtual teams, I'm sure there's some of you that got angst, thinking, "Man, I had a really bad experience in my undergrad, or I had a really bad experience in my other class, and I just don't want to go through this again." We know that there's some pain to it. Now, some classes, I have a course running right now where I'm hearing constantly from the professor how wonderful these teams are working together, and how happy the organizational leader is, that we're working with these teams. So we do have some strong teams. We do want you to work through your conflicts. We don't want you to run to the professor and say, "I don't get along with Johnny, don't like him, I want him to go to another team, or I want to be moved." That's not the way organizations work. We don't want the professor to be the problem solver. We want you to be able to solve your own issues. Now, with that said, if there's an issue that is about disrespect, about not following the values here at Post, and treating somebody with disrespect because of their race, because of their ethnicity, because of their age, or for any other reason that they're disrespected, that's unacceptable. And it doesn't happen very often, but I would say in the last 2 years, I probably have had two situations where I've had to get involved with something that was unacceptable. But generally speaking, we've had so many wonderful teams, that so many people that become friends and network, and we're able to get each other jobs and so on because of the relationship that they built. So it's an opportunity to network. It's an opportunity to take different roles. We don't want you to take the same role every time, because there'll be different roles on a team. Maybe some people just gravitate, like, "I'm going to be the leader." We had one student said, "I'm being a leader every time because I'm a great leader." But you know what? To truly learn, you to be successful, you have to learn to be a great follower too at times. And so maybe you take a different role. And so a lot of these projects might have the roles set up. So one person's doing some research, another person is focused on looking at the financials, maybe another person is going through and evaluating the different competitors and learning about that. And so you guys can decide, depending on the case that you're working on, that what roles that you would have, and taking on different roles throughout your program, and it will help you grow. And as I mentioned, the ability to network not only with the different students, you're going to learn the professor at a very different level than you did typically in courses, because you're going to be more involved with them in terms of meeting with them. So most of the PBLs ask the students to recap with the professor. The professor gives them an opportunity to meet with them on a weekly basis. We want teams to take advantage of that. We want you to continue to develop your emotional quotient, or your emotional intelligence, being able to understand how you're coming across, being able to see when somebody's frustrated or upset, whether that's somebody on your team, the professor, or the company. Being a real advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion. And I always mention belonging. There should be no one on your team who feels like they don't belong. We have some students, because they feel like they don't have enough experience, that they're not at the level of other students. But the truth is, you should bring them all in, because just because they may not have the experience in that field doesn't mean they don't have good ideas. It doesn't mean they're not smart. It doesn't mean that they can't help you see things differently because of their life experiences and their background. And truly valuing everyone on your team, being able to negotiate through challenges, resolve your conflicts, and reach a conclusion and submit successful work that you're proud of. I would say that we have a very high success rate, but it doesn't come with some challenges. And I always say if it didn't have challenges, you're not learning, right? Isn't that part of the learning experience? Do things go perfectly at work? Not likely. Are you going to get along with everybody in your job? Probably not. Are there going to be people that you relate to better than others? Yes. But that doesn't mean that you can't work with them. I can tell you, I've worked with some people I would never go to dinner with, that I would never invite to my house, and I really have nothing in common with, but I do respect their work and I do appreciate the ideas that they bring and the different skills that they have that I may not have. So the opportunity in this course, as I mentioned, the skills that you get to really be able to build is would be this ability to problem solve, communicate at a completely different level because you're going to meet with your team on a regular basis. Most teams work at least once or twice a week that they're meeting and they're going through the case and working on their deliverables. So that week they're collaborating, they're networking with each other, and and we have an opportunity where we get these cases from would be from our advisory boards that we have at the MBA level. We get them from the local Waterbury community. We also use a third party that we find organizations through, where I found many of them, where companies that have something that students could help with, they kind of go to this board, virtual board, and place their company info up there and what they want to work on, and then I have an opportunity to reach out to them. And I've had companies from one of the companies we're dealing with right now, who's just been a great partner for us, is a logistics firm in Vancouver, British Columbia. And so, you're going to get a chance if you work with that organization to work not only on something unique, but international as well. We've had companies from many different states. Right now, we have several in the Florida area because we've been working with a bankruptcy court there where companies that have struggled and looking for innovative thoughts, we are getting many of their firms, and we have everything from restaurants to hotels to resorts and so on that we've utilized for this creative thought and to help them use what we learn at the MBA level to help their companies be successful. And just think, you could put this on a resume that you helped organizations as you were going through the MBA with innovative ideas to apply what you've learned, that you weren't just going through a textbook and answering questions. That's not what employers are looking for today. So, as I mentioned, taking on these different roles, whether you're a follower or leader, is really going to help you grow. Take advantage of meeting your folks. We've had many students that develop a very strong collaboration with their fellow team members, the professor, and even the organizational leaders. This ability to grow your emotional intelligence. If you ask me what the most important factor for success in the world we live in today, it is not your educational level. It is not how smart you are. It isn't how well you work with technology. It is your emotional intelligence, how you are self aware and how you come across, how you are motivated, motivate others, the empathy that you have for people that may have different backgrounds than your own, your ability to have social skills and relate to people that might be at very different places in their career than you are, and being able to regulate yourself, that you don't get emotionally upset. That's distraction. It's like, what, I need to take a breather here, I need to think through this. Knowing yourself and knowing how you might come across, these are the skills. As a leader, when a leader is stressed out, the entire team is stressed out. I always like to say if the leader has a bad day, the whole organization has a bad day. And I cannot think of an organization today that shouldn't be focused on DE and IMB. And that there are a lot of organizations that say they are, but they're really not. They're really not doing what's necessary. They don't really understand the value of having diverse teams. Or if they say they do, they're not being consistent. Their senior leaders do not look like their employees. And so the employees don't stay because they don't see anyone like themselves in senior leadership. And so it's incredibly important that you, what I think is great about Post is we have very diverse students, as I said, not only throughout the United States at different ages and ethnicities, but also throughout the world. We have a lot of students from Germany, and we've had some from other countries as well that bring a very unique international um, an international flair to the course that helps you value different thoughts. So you need to be open-minded that you may not have all the answers, being able to negotiate win-wins, being able to resolve things that are not going well with each other. Somebody takes something personal, and being able to move beyond that and being able to respect that, hey, even though you disagree with somebody, you still need to respect them as a person, respect their thoughts, respect that they have their ability to express their opinion, and not to shut them down and say, you know what, I don't agree with you, let's move on. If you don't say that, sometimes the way we speak, the way we send emails, the way that we discount folks, it hurts. It hurts some people. We have students that believe, some of you may have heard this, where they feel that they're an imposter. And what that means is, they may not have the senior position right now. They may be just starting the business world. They may not have had the opportunity to have the strongest education, as they were growing up, and they feel like they don't deserve to be here, but they do. And I've seen the students walk across the stage for graduation looking like they have so much pride because they're the first in the family to reach a master's level. They might be the first with a college degree. And just so you know, you may already know this, but about 40% of the US population has an undergraduate degree today. And about somewhere between 8 and 10% has a graduate degree. And if you are working hard to get that graduate degree and you think, why am I doing this? My friends are going out having a good time, or I see parents have more time with their family than I do. Realize this, the research backs me up, is that parents, if at least one parent has a graduate education, the likelihood that their children will increases significantly. So they might not say, Mom, Dad, I really value and appreciate the example you are for me today. Boy, we wish our kids would say that. They may not ever say that to you, or they might say it 20 years from now. But I can tell you, they watch. You are an example to them because you're going home, you worked a hard day of work, and you're hitting the books, you're on the computer, you're working with your teams. You think they don't notice that? Absolutely. And it does make a difference for your family. So I'm going to open up the questions that you have about project-based learning, about working with teams, or anything else about our program that I can answer. Alan, is there anything to chat?
No, we are perfectly quiet.
So what excites you about this, or concerns you about it, or intrigues you?
So I think that it's exciting to work with other people. I like the idea. I think the apprehension I have is with the, you know, not, I haven't started the class yet, so I don't know what the deliverable is. And I think that's what's bringing me the apprehension, not knowing how to get from A to B. So I'm hoping that in the team, we'll be able to find a path from A to B. So typically I work with teams and hopefully communication is, open and yeah, hopefully it'll do all right.
Yeah, one thing I can guarantee is you're gonna, have different experiences in these classes. Some are gonna go well, some maybe not as well, but you learn both ways, right? And so you think, could I have done something differently? What could we have done? And so on. I will say one of the things that Alan and I hear from people when they start is they want the answer. They want the professor to say, well, what do you want this to look like exactly? Not gonna get that. You're going to say, you know what? I want you to be creative. I want you to be innovative. I want you to know what we're focused on, but I want you as a team to deliver it the way that you see fit. And some students have a hard time with that because they see everything as black and white. Well, you do this, 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 and you accomplish this. That's not the way the real world is. We can have three very successful teams in a class and they want it a very different way. And so that makes some students very uncomfortable because they want the professor to say, I want you to do this. I want you to use these resources. We want you to then go to use these resources and do this. And that's not what employers are looking for. It's not like you're going to go to a company, you're going to say, here's three textbooks that I want you to focus on. And you're going to find all the answers to your job in those textbooks. And I'll even tell you what pages to go to find that. I don't think if you could get that job, I don't think you're going to want that job. And so you're going to want a job where you're able to use your brain, able to be innovative and creative and better than your competition, and that's what where business is trying, that's what they're looking for. That's why these businesses come to us, because especially the entrepreneurs that come to us, they only look at through their own experiences, and these students can give them some very creative thoughts. And I just had one of our business leaders say, it's given me an opportunity to look at my business through a fresh set of eyes that I never ever thought I could do. That meant a lot to me, running this program, to be able to deliver something like that, because that's worth a lot. Because we do get stuck in what we know, and we don't always get innovative thoughts. And sometimes the people that work for us, they know the way we think and they just want to please us, but they're really not being creative and innovative. Thank you, Denise, for your comment. Any other comments or thoughts?
From the chat, and Chanel said that aligning schedules is her biggest concern in these classes.
Yeah,
And
just like in the real world, I mean, you have to be respectful to each other. Is there a perfect time? Probably not, but you being able to be flexible enough to make it work. I would say our teams make it work. Even with our German students who are on 5 or 6 hour difference, they make it work. They'll meet at a time that may not be perfect for them, but they're going to be there. And they just ask for a little cooperation, so you're not meeting at 10 o'clock at night, which would be 3 o'clock in the morning their time. I mean, you have to be respectful. We have a lot of teams that work on Saturdays together and so on. But I will say that if you truly respect each other and you want to be successful and understand you have to be flexible, then you're going to be able to make it work. If you say I can only meet between 2 and 3 on Tuesdays and that's it, if it doesn't work, too bad. That's not going to work in the real world, and it won't work here. Did that answer the question or concern? Alan, was there another part of that question, or did I get it?
Another part of the question, though, Chanel did say that yes, that does address her concern.
Okay. I
And
totally understand where she's coming from, and she's not the only person that feels that way. Especially, we have a lot of folks like, I'm juggling 4 kids and a job, and I have to work my own time. How do I get with 4 other people's time? And the answer to that is you have to collaborate, respect, and work it out together.
yeah, and then our only other comment is Marlene is just looking forward to working with everybody. So that I definitely, it's an interesting way to take class. So I hope you get a lot out of it.
I think that there's a lot of students, especially after they get through the second or third, that really see the difference and see themselves grow. We have students, especially at the first course, are like, I am very uncomfortable with this. I just want to go back to units and just going in my corner and reading a book and taking a test. But that's not going to give you the skills that you need, and that's not what employers want. It's not going to give you what you want this education to do for you. And when I say that, I mean that every one of you have a different why. And if you haven't written your why on a piece of paper, why you're here, why you're in this program, I ask you to do that soon, because when things really get tough, whether your job, when I was going through my doctor, especially, my job wasn't going so well. And I had some personal things where both my mother and father had cancer, and we were going through a really tough time. And I had to go back to that why many times because I wanted to quit, because it would have been the easiest thing to do. And, but I knew it wasn't what I wanted, even though I wanted more time with my family, even though I wanted, my job to go differently. But for my long-term dreams, I kept looking at that why. I wanted a better life for my family. I wanted to be the better father and have better life balance. And even though I went through that rough time, it really changed my life. And that's all I can say for myself is your why may be a bucket list because you want to be an example to your children or grandchildren. Your why might be that you want to be a senior leader in an organization or a CEO. Or this opportunity with the education. If you don't have it, you will never have a chance for opportunities above what you're doing now in your organization. So think about the why. You're here for a reason. And when things get tough, whatever, it could be a class, we all had them. Every one of us in our program had a class or two that was a real challenge for us. Mine was calculus in my undergrad and accounting in my grad. That accounting is not my background. I did not enjoy that. Some of you may love it, but when I was in that class, I hated every second that I was in there. But you know what? I made it through. I never decided to be an accountant, but I appreciate and respect it. And I had a student come to me a couple terms ago, wrote me a letter and said, I think it's ridiculous you make us take finance. I'm in HR. I could care less about finance. Well, the truth of it is, no matter what your background is, the financials of the company affects you, whether it's your budget, whether it's how well the organization is doing, your future in the organization, um, how the company makes decisions. And so for you not to understand the financials, you may not be an expert, but you don't want people to be able to pull the wool over your eyes and not understand the basics of financial ratios or whatever the case. So having a respect for different aspects of the business. Maybe your specialty is human resources. Maybe your specialty is project management. Maybe your specialty, is accounting. Whatever the case is, one of the great values of an MBA is that you're being able to see decisions through the different eyes of the different parts of the organization, not just your own silo. And so that's why it's so important to get through the courses you may not necessarily want. Any other thoughts or comments? Alan, anything you'd like to add based on your experience?
Honestly, no, I think that you covered it all really well. I think, like I said in the beginning of the call, that these courses are definitely different. but I think it's an opportunity to, to reorient your thinking and to flex some muscles that your more traditionally structured classes may not give you the opportunity to. So, if you embrace the different format, be a leader. If you look around and see no one is stepping up to make decisions, maybe it's time for you to be to be that person, and don't be afraid to have the conversations you need to have with your team. You all are in this together. And if you're not sure where to go or where to turn, or you do feel the need to work something out or have someone be a sounding board, or you just need to scream at somebody and you don't want it to be the teacher, call me, call Emily, call any of the advisors here in the office, and we can be good for that too. So if you do find yourself in that position, hopefully we can find some way to fix it, but we're good to talk to too. I think these courses have a lot to offer, and I think they do, that there's a lot that they can prepare you for. So yeah, just embrace it and keep an open mind.
Any last questions or comments before we let you go? Well, I knew I could speak for Alan. It means a lot to both of us that you are here tonight. It shows that you care. It shows that you really are, wanting to learn and be proactive as you get into these courses. So we sincerely thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing you progress in the MBA program and watching you reach your own dreams. And whether that is coming to Waterbury and actually going to the graduation, or taking this MBA and getting that job that you always dreamed of. So have a wonderful night, everybody, and thank you for being here.
Thanks.
Thank you so very much.
All right, good night.
Have a great night, everybody.
Good night.